Never underestimate yourself. That's what I would say. And it ain't too late.
Life Reimagined with Stacey Ray.
Before we begin, make sure you like, subscribe, and follow on social media.
Hi.
Hi. How are you?
Well, I'm jealous of your blue hair, or is that aqua?
It is pool blue.
Yeah, it's pool blue. I love it. It's fantastic.
Thank you. It was my rebellion against headlines that say hairstyles for women over 60.
Shut up.
That's what I
Yes.
think about that.
Yes. I did a piece on wild hair colors with women over 50. And there's a great woman, Michelle Saunders, and she has her hair bright purple. Anyway, you know these. It's just such a statement. I love it.
You know what? And honestly, I had a moment where it's like, well, maybe when it grows out, I'll go back to the white hair that I have. And I'm like, no. I'm getting more and more attached to it every day. I love it. So thank you.
It looks like you're tan, bitch. But you do.
I am, bitch. So I'm thrilled to meet you because for probably 30 years, I've been calling myself a tough old broad.
Ah, great.
So when I saw Glorious Broads, I was like, click, 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 click. I got to know more about this girl and this organization.
Glorious Broads is the home of unconventional, fearless broads. And we started it because there was so much fear of aging out there. And I wanted to show alternatives. And you start with yourself.
I know that you really are the queen of reinvention, aren't you?
I seem to be, or one of the many queens of reinvention. I just think that, well, you know this, that it's not only necessary, but it's fun. We're living longer. Who wants to stay at the same old job, even if you loved your job?
I've had a million different jobs and careers. And, you know, I was the kid when you'd say, what do you want to be? I'd have this list of like 50 things. I wanted to be all of them.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
the
yeah.
only thing that I'm resentful of now is that there's certain places that wouldn't take me because of my age. You know what I mean?
yeah.
But
Well, that's because they haven't met you. You see, I just think what we look like on paper does not match who we are. So I think it needs to be all about video.
yes. So how did you become an art director? Was art always something that you loved as you were young?
That was always my thing. That was what I was born to do. I was, the little art director of our family. At first, I was a designer, and then it was a lover who sat down with me as I got a little bored with the design. And he said, you were meant to be an art director. And so it was this great aspect of working with people, navigation, telling a story. And it also led up to where I am now. Funny how the bullets or the dots do line up in a way you're just not quite sure when you're living
Right.
it. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. I am always amazed at talented people who have such an eye for what rocks.
Yeah.
And do you develop that over time, or is it just something that you've got?
Well, I was never interested in making things pretty.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's very connected to wanting to tell a story. And so I was just working as a designer it was always publication because I was interested in telling a story. And I think where it clicked into who I was meant to be was meeting this guy named Roger Black. And he was huge in the publication world. And he just got me and I got him. And even when I wasn't prepared, he just kind of pushed me out into the world of telling a powerful story through both navigation and creatively. Who's the photographer you use? What kind of photography do you use? How do you tell that world and how do you merge it? And it was perfect for me for such a long time. I loved it.
And why did you leave?
Oh, I left it because the business went kaput. I mean, people still make magazines why they want to. I was in it, in my opinion, at the best of times. He was one of the first, Roger Black, to work globally. And so we went from country to country, redesigning things. There was no end of the budget. It was great times. And I don't mean, that we took advantage of it. It's just that, we'd make a design and we would have a production department make it look great.
Yeah, yeah.
And then when I was beginning to get kind of over it was when they would expect us, I'm saying that with a lot of obnoxiousness, to actually have to work on the kerning. It's like, no. No, you're supposed to do that. So it was getting into the fastidiousness of what I didn't want to do, but also the economy, because I left Roger and started my own business, kicked ass for about 15 years, and suddenly I'm up against, and I don't have a problem with younger people. You go. But I'm up, yeah, but I'm against these younger kids who are working for half of my pay, and I'm not willing to do it for half. So I got from there, I went to starting making videos, and there too, and we were doing kind of storytelling through videos, and there too, the young kids were doing for half the amount of money. So I took some time off. I'm jumping ahead here. I wrote a book because I always thought I could write, and I discovered I love to write. So that was the impasse. That's how it happened.
So, how did you come up with the concept of glorious broads? Because, oh my God, I love that.
Ah, yeah, it's a great combo, isn't it? Um,
Yes.
I will say why I wanted to. I come from a large family of women, but I noticed even as a kid that
Mm-hmm.
my mother, as we all aged and grew out of the house,
Mm-hmm.
she was left with no purpose. So, she started paying attention to things that she shouldn't have. She was a beautiful woman. She was getting her face done over and over again in
Oh
her
my,
60s
yeah.
and her 70s. Just, a freak out. She didn't know what to do with it. I was inspired by this amazing obituary, oddly enough, a woman named Claire Hancock's, and she was everything I wanted to be at 88. She got in a motorcycle accident. That may have been how she died, but she lived this other whole life later in life.
At 88?
88. She was a
Holy
successful
moly.
columnist, moved up to the Catskills at the end of her life. I think became interested in men and women, wrote a book, a self-published book, big success. It was just like, I want to be this woman. And it inspired me to kind of look around uh, New York, the home of so many glorious broads, and started having conversations with these women about their lives. And so they were a bunch of broads, and they were all glorious. And I worked with a friend of mine, an excellent wordsmith, and that's what we did. We came up with the words. And at first, it was Sages, Not Saints. That was the tagline.
Yeah.
But now we've come up with a much more aggressive tagline: Age Against the Machine.
Oh, I love that. It's
Isn't
kind
that
of like
great?
my feeling like reclaim the mic,
Yes,
right?
yes,
It's mine.
yes.
I
It's
have a
not,
voice, I'm going to use it.
yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes.
So, what do you say to? I love the term broads. I have always felt it was a compliment, even if someone didn't mean it as one, because it always made me feel like I'm tough, I'm strong, I'm resilient, etc., etc. What do you say to the women who don't like that term?
Well, I definitely find that it is generational. The women older than you and I have a problem with it. Not all of them,
Yeah,
but they think of it as not an elegant woman. Well, you have glorious for that. So
right.
I think I don't apologize for it. What I say to them is, I have reclaimed the word. I have
Correct.
reclaimed
And you're
broad.
repurposing it to be
Yes.
meaningful, right?
Yes, yes, yes. But nobody
Yeah.
says no to the interviews. They may have a little squawk, squawk, squawk. There was this one woman, well, she's still a part of Glorious Bros. She is 102. And she's so fearless. But she said to me, I don't want to be a glorious broad. Call me a glorious warrior. Okay, so she's on my page, and I called her a glorious warrior.
I think it's really interesting. Do you find any of the younger women have? Because here's one of my biggest pet peeves, and that's why I love talking to you. I cannot tolerate younger women mansplaining to me what feminism is.
Interesting. I
It
think that's
happens all the time because
yeah.
they think they know how I should walk, talk, act. Oh, you shouldn't say that. Oh, you can't say
Really?
that. Oh, that might, Okay, so first of all, the women that came before me, my generation,
Yeah.
if it wasn't for us, you wouldn't even be able to have
Yes.
any of this conversation with me to begin with. I can remember being in the sixth grade, and this is silly, but our classes each took a turn once a year doing PTA shows. And it was like probably 69. And it was right in the Shirley Chisholm
Oh,
and Steinem and all the great women. And I wrote our classes play, and it was all about feminism.
great.
And we were all holding signs, we've come a long way, baby, and all this. And I remember it so specifically because all the moms in the auditorium stood up giving us a standing ovation.
So I think we're at a very interesting stage with feminism. Where will it go next?
I fear that women still don't get how much power we actually have if we stood together.
Yeah, 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 yeah. I think you've seen, or I'll tell you, we have a lot of young followers. I want to say this for the young kids. I think like everything, they're divided, There's the Kardashian lovers, and I had one 89-year-old, Liz Friedman. I love this woman, and she was saying how the Kardashians they are not feminists. They send such a bad code to the young women because of the amount of surgery they have. And there were two reactions: the young women that said yes, we agree, and the young women said, hey, they kick ass as businesswomen. So I learned something, they really are divided, and yet they're under this umbrella of feminism. I'm hoping there is a wanting to be ferocious,
Yes.
and with all that's coming at us, I think that is growing.
One of the things that I appreciate about you so much is that you are also calling attention to what I am always trying to call attention to, which is we are invincible, not invisible.
Oh, thank you.
I am so tired of people wanting to shrink us down. And that's one of the reasons I love when you go out and you interview these amazing women who have such rich stories to tell that are so. I mean, I learn something all the time. How much has Glorious Broads changed you? As you are meeting all these women, what's it doing for you personally?
Oh, Glorious Broads has changed me a lot. I mean, I would say one of the things that I had been doing was I had been putting my friends into boxes. Like, oh, this is my Black friend, and this is my Asian friend. This is my 86-year-old friend. This is my 90-year-old friend. I don't do that anymore. Now they're just a sea of fabulous women.
And they're your friends.
Yeah, and I guess it's because I see all the commonalities we have. And I always say, like Jane Fonda says, if you take care of yourself and you're healthy, an 88-year-old life can be kind of almost the same as me in my 70s. Not exactly the same, but a lot alike. So it definitely, I would say that's one of the bigger things. And also to see that there's so many of us who are invincible and not invisible. Who, and I think that just has to be, I think that can't be talked about enough because
Right.
that's still that bullshit line of, oh, we're invisible.
Yeah.
I don't want
We
to
don't
talk about,
have to be.
no, make a choice of how you walk into the room.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I asked this question of the women, that are in my private Facebook group for my company. How do you cope with the feeling of being invisible? I was trying to get them to talk about what it feels like to be a woman at this age and, over 50. And so many of them actually, I think, really didn't understand the question because they were viewing it more as, oh, I don't mind being invisible. I don't like calling attention to myself and, things like that. And that's not what we're referring to when we're talking about being invisible. It's like, what about my wisdom? I am 65 years old. I've been through a lot. I could offer a lot to different conversations.
Now, there's no doubt that there's a change in your life. You know this. When you hit, a certain age and you're not getting the attention. But I think you just have to go over that lump and then realize that there is a real freedom to the fade. And I'll take that.
Yes, me too. I'll tell you, I think my need for attention, the focus of attention is very, very different than it was when I was younger. When I was younger, I think my desire for attention was I was a hot shot at work and, wow, look at her. She's a superstar. Now, it's not like I'm not interested in you thinking I'm a hot shot or any other thing. Honestly, that is the joy of age. You stop caring, hopefully,
Oh, yes,
of what other
absolutely.
people think, right?
Yes, and that's true. Those
Yeah.
when you hit 50, everyone talks about that. Everyone's like, "Oh yeah," around that time.
I know. I used to say, well, now I've earned the right to say whatever I want and I don't care what people think. I'm not going to be mean to anybody, but like I said, I have a voice and I want to use it, even if it's just to make somebody feel better today. How do you find these glorious broads?
Well, there's different kinds of ways. I have to say, in the winter, I find someone through someone, or I go to a party and I'm drawn to someone. It's like dating.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you just see someone, you say, "Oh, that one's glorious." But I think my favorite way is to be on the streets, and you say, "Oh, this one's great." When I started this, I guess we really started the interviews on the streets about 4 years ago, but now so many people are on the streets. But still, if you approach them the right way and you tell somebody, "I think you're glorious," and you get a good rapport, it's amazing how honest they will be about their lives.
Having kids is not all that it's cracked up to be. I have none. I don't miss it. I'm not a mother. I'm not a granny. And when they want to call me granny in an interview article, I say, call me witch, bitch, anything, but do not call me granny.
I would say that 90% of the time they work out, and 10% they don't. But by work out, I mean that you have the connection and that they did they did wind up teaching you truths that you didn't know.
What do you think's the most profound lesson you've learned while you're doing all this?
Well, I would say that we have so much in common. I would say that, not giving a fuck about when you turn 50 is a real thing.
Huge.
I would also say that there are so many more women after 55, even after 60. I can't stand that. 60 plus, even after 60, who are very in touch with their sensuality. I do feel that there were so many lies, not purposeful lies, but myths that we were told about aging that are proven to be so untrue by these conversations I'm having with women. It's either a new breed that is happening. I definitely think that our generation is inventing what it's like to be in their 70s, in their 60s, in their 80s. I feel I didn't have much of that.
I agree with you. I remember my grandparents, thinking back now, they were probably in their 60s, like where I am now. And I remember them sleeping. It really wasn't a guest bedroom. It was like our sun porch where we had like a sofa bed and things like that. And I remember walking in there to say something to them, and they were naked, like getting ready to. I was so horrified and sickened at the thought of these old, shrivelly people my age going to do the dirty. It was like horrifying to me. And now I'm sitting here saying, wait a minute, they weren't old at all. There's like this click, like all of a sudden people expect us not to have any desire for sex or no ability to dream of what a future could be in your life. Where do you think that comes from?
We're living longer.
Yeah.
We need to make money because we're living longer, unless, unless you took very good care of your finances. And I find even that you took great care of your finances, but maybe, your stocks bombed more than once and you just keep having to reinvent yourself.
Right.
But that wasn't our mothers' lives. So I think we looked at their lives and expected that our lives might be like this. For me, it took, Auntie Mame. I loved Auntie
I
Mame.
always wanted to be Auntie Mame.
I'm your Auntie Mame.
No kids. I wanted to fly into town and bring presents for everybody, but then jet back off on all my travels and see the world. Hold that thought. We'll be right back after this message.
Ready to trade ordinary for extraordinary? At Sisterhood Travels, we turn bucket lists into unforgettable adventures with group travel specifically for women 45 and up. Picture yourself exploring vibrant cultures and making lifelong friends along the way. Join our community of fearless women and start your next chapter full of joy, discovery, and sisterhood. Visit sisterhoodtravels.com and say yes to your next adventure.
Let's dive right back in.
I would love to go on a road trip and find more glorious broads all over the world.
Oh my gosh, I imagine that would be...
Yeah, that would be great because I do get messages from all over. But even in the States, it would be fun.
I think a lot about, like with our travelers, the women who travel with us, and it is incredible to me how many women have zero confidence. They have never, ever learned the concept that they can put themselves first, that they can do anything they set their mind to.
I went to a literary party, very posh, the other day. I won't mention the writer. I didn't realize it was for a self-help book. My eyes were rolling already. But so many of these lovely women in the audience and sophisticated women were responding to her book about when you wake up at 4 a.m., you feel so bad about yourself. You feel like you made all the bad decisions. You have to break out and live this life you were born for. And these women were about my age, maybe more your age, And I just was kind of shocked. I was thinking, wow, so many of these people are relating to this. I don't understand. Gloria Steinem happened. This happened. Why are there so many women still feeling, which is what you're saying? Why is that?
I honestly don't know, but I will tell you there's magic when you see someone who is petrified to get on a plane for the first time.
Yeah, wow.
And they make their way alone to an international destination, which they've never done. They don't know a soul they're going to meet.
That's nice.
That's not only magic, that is life-changing.
Yes,
and
sure.
it's the little acts of self-care, self-love, self whatever that I think help to empower women. And so one of the things that fascinates me about Glorious Broads is that they are so unapologetic.
Yes.
I relate to that. I
Yes.
love that. And I can
Yes.
tell so do you.
Yes.
So it's an amazing thing to watch because a couple of the videos that I watched on your website
Uh-huh.
or on your socials,
Yes.
I could actually see the women like tilt their head a little bit. And as they were saying it, almost I felt like it was reconfirming it for them.
Yes.
Yeah, that's right. I can whatever. And I love that because sometimes we have to do that, right? Like,
Yes.
do you feel like a lot of the women that you interview are still always in the process of reinventing and reimagining their life?
I think it's a daily thing. I think just in little choices. I'm going to connect this to a woman who I just fell in love with, and she was young. She was like 50. She turned 50. And I was attracted to her because I read her book and it blew me away. Glynis McNeil. It's about her trip to Paris, and it was after COVID, and she so relished in the flesh, her own flesh, others' flesh, lovers' flesh, cheese, after all of, and friends, after all of this alone time. She lived alone.
Right.
And I related because I left my lover. It was a disaster living with him during COVID, and I just rediscovered being alone again. And she talked about the joy of going to a bar, sitting by yourself, ordering a cocktail, eating a meal, or the complete removal of needing to find a boyfriend. I just was knocked out with her. And I think even for, a broad like this, I think it's a daily ritual. What can I do right now that will not so much remind myself, but like, I'm here and I want to do this for myself.
And that is huge. I know when my husband died, it's been 7 years and, always a work in progress, but I will tell you that I am extraordinarily happy. And I think because I am at peace with who I am, which I, by the way, had to completely rediscover after my husband died.
What do you mean by that?
Well, because, you're with someone for decades
Yeah.
and you no longer know, do I like that because
Ah,
we liked it or I actually really like it?
yes.
And then to stop feeling any sense of guilt that I freaking love living by myself. I absolutely love it. And there's a difference between being alone and lonely.
Oh,
I
absolutely.
am not lonely.
Yes, 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 yes.
I love the life I've been able to build. I started my business after I was 60. The women have heard me say this on this podcast before is that, well, I'm going to be 65 anyway.
Yes,
So
right.
what would you rather I do? Sit there and curl up like a ball and do nothing? Or go to Finland and Lapland in January, which I did with my granddaughter, and go snowmobiling? That's a glorious broad, right? Yeah.
It's a little Oprah, but there is something to purpose in life.
Yes,
You wake
very
up in
much
the
so.
morning and you have purpose. It's also so interesting to hear, I don't know where you are in your love life, but what's the freedom of love in your 60s and 70s. It's very interesting. I do not understand. I'm not putting it down, no judgments, but I don't understand personally marriage at this point. I love my little home. I like the way I like it. I don't want your shit around. I have a boyfriend across town. He comes over, he's 20 minutes. I see him twice a week, enough. It's a different kind of thing. It's not the crazy passion of 20, but that's okay. The crazy passion is for my life.
My feelings on a love life are really quite simple. I don't want one.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
am That's where I am now.
Yes.
I've learned to never say never,
Yes.
but I'm not looking for it. I'm not on the hunt for it. This may be the happiest and most content I've ever been in my life. Why spoil it with drama and conflict? What I don't understand, and I don't mean to be judgmental,
Yeah.
is how many women feel that they must have someone in their life
Oh
to be
my God.
complete.
Why are they afraid of being alone?
I
I don't
know.
understand. But I think, well, so are men. Men are scared
Oh,
shit.
they're worse. Yeah.
They are. I don't understand why, if there was a course, maybe it's a course of, not to get to Buddhism, where you just kind of, it's really wonderful to be on your own.
What do you do for self-care and self-love?
Let's see. Well, shall I give you a day's routine? Because it involves all that.
Sure. I would love that.
Well, it's really built into my life. I mean, I get up. I have a terrible insomnia. I'm always dealing with that. I'm actually very articulate for the fact I had 2 hours sleep last night. Little wine. But
Yeah.
I get up and I do my meditation, 20 minutes. It chills me out. I
Right.
do a little reading of my Eckhart Tolle. He keeps me cool. And then I usually, if I get up early enough, I will go to the gym, and I enjoy the gym. I always did enjoy weights and doing things. And I have a bunch of like weightlifter guys I work out with.
That's fun.
And then I have a little coffee shop that I read the paper. I'm equally horrified with all that's going on. And then I come home and I start my day. So when I have a day, like tonight, I hate that word boyfriend, but the guy wanted to come over after I have a coffee with my friend. And I didn't want just a lovely guy, but no, tonight I'm watching Hacks. Like,
Season
no.
4.
Oh,
Yes.
oh my God. She's a glorious broad. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And I'm having a glass of wine and I'm going to have a little something. And that's, I'll probably wrap myself in some, slathery moisturizer and girl out, as me and my sisters used to say. Doesn't that sound good?
It sounds perfect.
I do want to say one thing. I wrote it down. I'm a writer. I have to write down, but I bet you have found this, but I am a little closer to the edge, whatever that might be, than you are, except I meet more and more 80-year-olds. I hope I have at least 10 more years in me. But as I see the mortality coming, it's making me so brave. It's making me try things, do things. What the fuck? I've been getting on stage and telling these storytelling. Sometimes I'm good, sometimes I bomb. And it's just flexing different things, but I don't have fear that I did younger. And there are a bunch of us out there. And I think that's what, the younger have to understand, that it can be that your life widens instead of narrows if you take care of yourself.
Absolutely. And when mortality hits you in the face, or the
Yes.
thought of it, I agree with you. I'm definitely I'm much braver as I've gotten older than, because when you're younger, so many fears come into play, like, oh, I don't want to die. I don't want to leave my daughter, orphan, and, stupid things like that. But as I've gotten older, there's very little I won't try if I want to. I am planning to go in December to my 7th continent. I'm going to Australia, and I am going to climb the Sydney Harbour Bridge, and I'm going to hold up my number 7 sign as my almost an act of defiance, because you know why? I'm afraid of heights. What's the worst that can happen?
You topple off.
I fall off the bridge, but I made it. When I think of what you're doing, I'm really intrigued by the thought that you're thinking about, or trying to think about, making it into a show.
Oh yeah. No, I did a reel. It's hilarious and real. It's great. It's going to be a docu-series, and so we did a sizzle. A sizzle means a little tease. And it's about, I guess it's 8 minutes long. I have a wonderful director who's my demi partner in Glorious Broads. And he and I found these four women. One of them's in their 50s, another one's in their 60s, 70s, 80s, and it's about how they feel about sex. And out
Oh,
of the four women, and I'm in it too, four of us are love sex, and one of them thinks it's the most ridiculous thing in the world.
ha,
It was fun to have her, like she's
that's great.
perfectly happy with her life. And what's important to this is we're being interviewed by a young woman, a young funny comedian. She's only 29, and so it's to get the different generations and the two points of views. And I think this young kid came away with her jaw dropped.
I love the thought of your show as a docuseries. That would be so fun to watch. What do you say to women who don't believe in their own power? What's your advice for them?
Well, I think it's hard to say something to women, except, it's kind of telling a woman who's so afraid of aging, look in the mirror and make friends with your wrinkles. It's okay. So I think it is connected to power. If you own those wrinkles, if you own the life you've lived,
Yes.
um, there's power in that, or at least the beginning of power. And there's also power in living a life, your life. I understand you're a caregiver, but it's your life too.
I think it's a great answer, and I agree with you. When I think about my wrinkles, and honestly, I'd like to think I have a lot less than some other people, but and I say that with I'm not picking
No,
on
no,
any
no,
particular
no.
person, but I think like every single wrinkle on my face or skin is symbolic of a challenge. I've overcome it. It's one step further to being the real me. And I'm not going to have any kind of surgery or things like that because that's not me. And I always say, like, I'm aging gracefully, but not really.
Aging disgracefully.
Disgracefully. I'd like to think at this point in my life that I'm on an even field of enjoying life, being good to myself. I still don't think I'm as good to myself as I could be.
Yeah,
I have to work hard at even things like, going for a mani-pedi or something like
sure.
that. That's important, but then my work takes precedence or,
Yes,
another commitment. And I've got to go, no, Stace, don't do that.
yes, yes,
You
yes.
matter.
Yes, yes. I think a good question we always ask, and it's true. I know I have one, that inner critic. It's like, no, go away, go away, go away. I don't want that. And also in our climate right now, I really want to hold on to the joy. Fuck it.
I agree with you. I don't want to lose my ability to feel
No,
joy at all. And there was a time when I had after Mike died.
of course.
And I think it was, obviously very natural. It took a long time for me to be able to, but you know who really gave me my spirit to keep going?
Who?
These women,
Oh, nice,
the
nice.
women, because I wasn't alone. I
Yes,
like thinking I'm the only one that's going through this. Nobody else
yes.
understands what I'm going through.
I'm going to liken your loss. I want to talk about grief more in my interviews. It depends. It's better if I know them. But
Yeah,
grief is a big thing, and we're going to have to deal with it more as we age.
yeah.
And I lost my favorite sister. They're all great, but unexpectedly when I was about, I guess I was 50, and
Mm.
she went on a trip and she never came back.
Oh my.
And I read this quote of Charlotte Rampling's, and she said, "My lights went out for 10 years." And that's what you're talking about. Your lights
Yeah.
go out. And that takes time, and it takes a lot of work to recover, and then you come out stronger.
Yes, yes. and there is no expiration on grief.
No.
And I think a lot of times, because of our own uncomfortableness, when someone else is experiencing grief, we're like, we want to hurry them up. You'll be okay. It'll be better. Time heals all wounds. Bullshit on that.
Yeah, and that's something you learn as you age. I handled my grief very badly. I mean, in the beginning when my sister passed away. Since then, I've had, sadly, a lot of people pass, but I just felt like this happened to no one. No one understands. I was a dope, but you scratch and you learn.
I go back to the term of glorious broads and how spectacular that you came up with that term, because I think you're right. I think it does talk to the elegance, if you will, but also to the toughness and we are so strong. Every struggle that I've been through, and so many of my peers and colleagues and friends and women like yourselves, we've had to work so hard for everything. And that makes you a broad.
Yes, 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 yes.
So I can't tell you how much I've loved this conversation.
Oh, this was fun. I feel like I have a new best friend now.
I know, I feel the same way. Do I qualify as a glorious broad, or am I still just a tough
You
old broad?
definitely do. Yes.
Aw, thank you. I'm honored. Anything that you would like to leave in the minds of our listeners? The profound words of the original Glorious Broad.
Never underestimate yourself. That's what I would say. And it ain't too late.
Please give us a 5-star review, like us, follow us, subscribe to us, and share with all your friends.